Why are there so many cyclones and floods everywhere? In other countries, it is too dry. Animals are dying. Children cannot go to school. My parents say it's climate change and that we can't do anything about it. So I wonder, what will happen if we do nothing? But what will happen if we act?
African, Caribbean, and Pacific countries are on the front lines of climate change, already enduring the severe consequences of hurricanes in the Caribbean, relentless droughts and floods in southern and eastern Africa, and tropical cyclones in the Pacific. These are not distant threats. They are the devastating lived realities, disrupting lives, livelihoods, economies, and the sustainable futures we strive to build. Now is the time to act.
While the OACPS's 39 SIDS are not responsible for the climate crisis, we are suffering the brunt of its impacts and carrying the heaviest of burdens. Regardless of their income status, all SIDS need highly concessional climate finance provided on a large scale to protect our countries, our communities, our ecosystems, and our future. For us, the Loss and Damage Fund will be crucial. It has to be robust, it must be easily accessible to all OACPS countries, it must be standalone, and take account of the realities faced by us. It must provide grant-based resources, support both economic and non-economic losses, address extreme disasters and slow onset events. And lastly, it must consider loss and damage impacts on both our lands and in our ocean.
ACP countries are on the front lines of climate change. Now is the time to act. COP29 offers us a unique moment to amplify our collective voice and forge a path toward resilience and a secure, sustainable future.
We can still make a difference, but we need to act. We need to act now. For me and for future generations. Here's what countries like mine are calling for at COP29 to drive real change.
The OACPS urges parties to establish a new collective quantified goal, post-2025, with targets for mitigation, adaptation, and loss and damage. Current estimates indicate that at least $1 trillion per year will be necessary. They also request that financing be balanced between mitigation and adaptation, with a notable increase in adaptation funding, which currently stands at only 28%. The OACPS highlights the urgency of making the Loss and Damage Fund fully operational, particularly for SIDS and LDCs. The OACPS insists that access to financing be simplified and expedited for the most vulnerable countries, emphasizing the need for financing in the form of grants rather than loans. The OACPS also supports the idea of reforming the global financial architecture, as proposed by the Bridgetown Initiative. The OACPS calls for increased financial, technical, and capacity-building support for the formulation and implementation of national adaptation plans by 2025. They emphasize the need for new sources of funding, particularly from the private sector. The OACPS calls for the Loss and Damage Fund to be equipped with quickly accessible resources, with a minimum allocated to SIDS and LDCs. The OACPS demands a robust framework for carbon market mechanisms, emphasizing environmental integrity and transparency. The OACPS calls for developed countries to increase their NDC ambition by 2030, ensuring that emission reduction targets align with the global 1.5 degrees Celsius pathway set by the Paris Agreement. The OACPS advocates for a fair transition to a low-carbon economy, ensuring that this transition is equitable for vulnerable populations.
We can still make a change, but we need the world leaders to hear our voice.
Dear citizens of the world, today we have the power to change course. This is not just a political issue. It is a matter of survival. Our children, who represent the future of our nations, are relying on us. Let us not leave their future to chance. We must commit to ensuring equitable access to requisite financial resources, appropriate technology transfer, and capacity building to support our adaptation and mitigation efforts for us now and for those to come. The time to act is now, before it is too late for us all.
If we speak with one voice and act together, we can build a more resilient future for all.